What's up, YouTube? I'm Robert, and this is the Biker Channel. Well, it's the Biker Channel, but it's also the B1KER Bar. And today, I am really stoked to have a special guest, Andrew Taylor. He's sponsored by Norco, Adidas, and a whole grocery shopping bag of bike parts of other companies as well. And I'll just go ahead and let him give himself a little intro. And what's up, Andrew?
Yep, just out here in North Dakota. I've been on a 48-state road trip for the past 4 months, and yeah, I think this is my 15th state. So yeah, psyched to tune in with Robert today and just chat about, I guess, life and whatnot and what's been going on. And yeah,
for sure. So when I first met Andrew, he was at a Norco event because he's sponsored by them. And oddly enough, he showed the fuck up. And so unfortunately, they put him in the campsite with me and Richard from Stickard. So that meant there were about to be copious amount of alcohol drank. And me thinking, in all my years of wisdom and experience, I thought I had that shit pinned. But apparently, I had the drinking part down, but not the let's go climb up to 10,000 feet the next morning after 3 hours of sleep. So I got a little lesson sent to me that day. So outside of that, you are like you just said, you're touring around the United States in you used to have a short bus, converted short bus. We did a video on that about a year ago. What are you driving nowadays?
Yeah, so I built that short bus and it was super awesome. I actually built it for a trip up to Alaska. And I just realized I really liked living on the road and out of like an RV style thing or a bus or whatnot. So yeah, I spent a whole entire summer in that school bus last year, and we had another film trip to go down to Mexico. So I needed to rent an RV, and I knew since we had a bigger crew of filmers and more riders, I knew I wanted to get an RV myself. So I went ahead and just purchased like what I'm driving now. And it's a Coachman Prism. It's like a 25-foot RV with slide out a few beds for friends to join in along the way. And
yeah, what you're calling nowadays? Friends.
That
truck fucks, man, doesn't it?
Yeah, I've only had one friend meet me in 4 months, so maybe I don't have too many friends.
So what made you decide to go the RV route instead of the van life like everybody else?
Well, I mean, van life is super awesome. People that build out these extravagant, crazy Sprinter vans. And for me personally, I didn't have a house to work on a new van. Like I built the whole school bus myself over about a year's worth of time. And it took me a lot of work, but like I wanted to do that again. But since the transition, I didn't have a house to actually like build out a Sprinter myself. I found a really killer deal on a new RV, and it was set up with everything ready to go. So it kind of just streamlined everything into the next project. So yeah, I went that route, and I'm actually super, super pumped on it just because I think someone was saying the other day, it's like people build out these Sprinters, or you can just get an RV that's actually made to live in, Like,
yeah, I think the only difference is that the RV compared to the Sprinter, like the Sprinter maybe has a little more like, because it's smaller, you can go different places or something like that. But I'm assuming you're not sleeping in like Walmart parking lots. So
actually, I slept in a Walmart parking lot last night. So
you're keeping it fucking classy then, right?
I'm super classy. But that's the thing, like living in the RV and having all the amenities I need, sleeping in a Walmart parking lot doesn't feel like sleeping in a Walmart parking lot. Like I can roll up anywhere. Like I've slept like downtown in cities, like had too many beers, fell asleep right downtown, like no parking zones, and like never even got a knock on the door. So I think, I don't know, like I don't get messed with too much in that thing. So yeah, I think it was a good route for me to go.
Right on, dude. So you're doing this project that is spawning from you being a professional rider. I had another pro rider, Jeff Lanowski.
Yeah.
I had him on a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about different kinds of pros, and he goes out and he does these like kind of demos of trials and stuff like that all over. And typically when somebody says pro, you think go out and like podium shit. So like you you did have like your run where you were doing a lot of racing and stuff like that. You did Rampage a few years ago, didn't you?
Yeah, so I started out like I basically started out dirt jumping, competing. I never was really too much in the racing, maybe a year or so when I was like 14 or so. But yeah, started doing slope style events and kind of took off. And that's where I really got my start, like podium, won some slope style events back in the day, like podium, some like Crankworks events. And then, yeah, that kind of went into doing a show called Drop In, which was like living in a school bus. It was like a Canadian TV show years back. And yeah, from there, got some invites to go to Rampage and did that for a couple of years. And luckily, just, being a part of Adidas, that company, they've been able to like support a lot of like adventure trips and kind of encourage their athletes to go and like do these adventure trips. So yeah, I've been lucky enough to be able to do that for the last 5 years of my career rather than competing.
So you said you were doing slope style stuff. Aren't you from Santa Rosa, which is just north of San Francisco?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I'm from Santa Rosa. And when I was about 21, I moved down to Santa Cruz because there was just such a crazy scene of dirt jumping, and like all the who's who was there. Everyone would go there in the wintertime and ride. So yeah, ended up moving down there and being a part of that scene, which was like really good for me, and like, have some of the greatest like whatever memories from being there and all the epic like sessions going to post office jumps.
So that's interesting. I would have thought maybe you went towards Tahoe, which is, for those people that aren't from the California area, like that's, our mountains closer to where he's growing up. So what was it about Santa Cruz? They just had the scene going on? Or, I mean, they have some fucking badass trails down there, and they have some.
It's crazy because a lot of the trails back then were all illegal, but
I think they still are.
Yeah, totally. It's so some of the best riding in California is illegal, but just how it goes. But yeah, there's just a lot of the slope style scene, the post office dirt jumps. It was like a huge thing. And there was a lot of people coming in the winter times. People would be flying over from Europe, renting houses and just living there and training. So it just became this mecca for, I would say, almost 10 years until the jumps got torn down because they were building on that property. But unfortunately, yeah, when those got torn down, the scene actually like kind of faded from that area.
So how do you go from like, I assume you start out like just some kid likes riding bikes, like, because that's what fucking Americans do, right? And then you're like, oh, I'm gonna jump off the curb. How do you go from that to fucking hitting these huge jumps? And I mean, like the picture that I posted on Instagram, I mean, that thing's probably 65 feet or some shit like that.
You're putting some Canadian tax on that for sure.
Hey man, I'll fucking do it, dude. Because to me, like anything over like, hey, I jumped over that stick is fucking huge. So
yeah, no, I was like growing up, had a bunch of my good friends. We kind of rode BMX, yeah, exactly, going from hopping curbs to building little dirt jumps. And then we got this crazy idea when I was in like 7th, 8th grade or something to build a foam pit in my mom's backyard. And she was super down with it. And I'm pretty sure there was a lot of construction going on around our area in that time. So a lot of the wood that we constructed that thing with was definitely just like, borrowed these construction sites and yeah, just, stuff like that. So yeah, the progression really like took off when we had that thing in the backyard. And then, yeah.
What'd you use for the foam?
Actually, so one of the high schools was getting rid of like some of their like jump pads, so we used a couple of those, and then we actually bought a bunch of random foam. Like you could buy like scrap foam from some place. You just pick it up in a big bundle, and it was basically, yeah, half-ass foam pit, but it worked out good. And then I ended up donating it to this local skate park called Ramp Rats that was in Petaluma, and it went on for, I don't know, I'd say another 5 years of use. So that was pretty cool to see, the progression happen there. And then, yeah, just kind of taking it from that stuff to dirt and mulch jumps and all that.
That's super cool. So at this point in your life, you're down in like Santa Cruz and you're riding, and then all of a sudden, like, you're just competing and you start winning, or like?
Actually, so I didn't move to Santa Cruz till I was like 21. I'd say like my breakout year was when I was like 19. I was competing on some like amateur slopestyle contests, like Harvest Huckfest up in Crank, like I think it was after Crankworks. But yeah, I went from doing that. Then I had a really solid year one year where I like won my first contest, the Tiva Mountain Games, and then the next couple weeks I took second at Crankworks Colorado, and then and then another podium at Highland, and finished it off with Bear Claws. And
so as like a young kid, I mean, you said you were 19, 20, like how were you funding like going around like that?
Yeah, so actually, like we grew up pretty broke. Like my mom was trying to raise 4 kids by herself, and I basically worked since I was like 14 to do whatever I could possibly do. And I remember, whatever, a couple of random odd jobs going up through high school to fund myself getting to like different events and whatnot. And then, like after I had that breakout year, I guess the bike company I was riding for at the time was like Versus. They were a Bay Area company that they're no longer around, but it was pretty cool. I had a good opportunity with them. They were sending me to these contests, and I guess from there, kind of started doing good. And Spider, this ski company, I don't know if you're aware. Like,
yeah, I know who they are.
Yeah, so they started like a mountain bike line, and after I won Crankworks Colorado, like I'll never forget, the marketing guy came up and he's like, "Hey, I'm Chad from Spider, and we're looking to get some athletes on our clothing." And I was like, "Oh, cool. Like, what the hell is Spider?" And then like later that evening, I like look up Spider, and I'm like, "Holy, this is a huge company."
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt whenever I met you and we were standing in the parking lot. I'm like, "Hey, what's your name?" You're like, "Oh, I'm Andrew Taylor." I'm like, "Oh, what do you do?" You're like, "I ride bikes." And then a couple of minutes, like a little bit later, Richard from Stickers like, "Oh, dude, that's AT, man. He's freaking badass. You should Google him." And then I did, and I was like, "Wow, that's definitely not who I was." I didn't know that.
I thought it was that kid living in a bus.
Right? I was like, "What the fuck is up with this homeless guy, man?" At least he shaved then. You got quite the beard going on there, man.
Oh yeah, I haven't had a haircut for a long time, and I'm just
I had the monster fucking lumberjack beard going on just about a week or so ago, but freaking I got the shits of cleaning all my fucking food out of it. Every time I eat fucking wings or anything, like it is just buried in there. And I was like, I gotta stop this.
That's awesome. The wife said, get it out of here.
She did actually. She was the reason I was keeping it, because like when at first, like usually I'll grow a beard and I'm like, "Oh, I'm just fucking over it." And she's like, "No, I like it." And I was like, "Well, okay, I'm not gonna say no to that." You know, I can be lazy and not shave, and you're down with it. I'm in. You know,
this guy fricks,
right? So you can actually say fucks on this channel.
Oh yeah.
There's all the curse words are allowed here.
Yeah, but I don't really curse. I'm just.
Oh yeah, not until you're drinking. So what are you drinking over there, by the way?
I'm actually drinking this Outlaw Brewing. I was in Montana for the last 2 weeks, and I went to Big Sky to ride, and I met this kid Taylor who was badass, and he showed me around the mountain, and he's like, "Hey dude, I work at a brewery in the evenings, come on down." And we went, checked it out, ended up riding with him some more, and as I was leaving Montana, he just like filled my fridge full of this Outlaw beer. So yeah.
Hey, that works. So what state did you say you're in now?
I'm in North Dakota.
So how did this trip come together, man? Like you're like just sitting at home. You're like, I ain't got shit else to do. I want to ride bikes in every one of the lower 48.
Well, I would have been sitting at home, but I don't have one.
Good point.
Yeah, basically, like every year I feel like I try to come up with some like crazy scheme, like, oh, I want to do this, and then see if I can get some support to do the project and whatnot. And like the start of like being in a bus was going to Alaska. Like I always wanted to go to Alaska, so I did a month-long trip up there, and I was like, sweet, this is awesome. And then from there, the following year, I did a trip down to Mexico with Martin Soderstrom. He's like a slope style guy as well, and just had a good time. And then I was like kind of like thinking, like, what's the next step? I don't want to get a house. I was having too much fun living on the road. And I was actually talking to my stepdad, and he does these like touring trips on a motorcycle. And we were one night, we were like drinking some beer, and he was just like telling me, hey, like wouldn't it be cool? Like he always wanted to hit like all 50 states or 48 states in a consecutive road trip. And I was like, man, like I should do that. I should try to ride my bike in all 48 states. And just like at that time I was just getting into kind of making some videos for YouTube, but didn't really have like a path of like what I wanted to do. So yeah, I just schemed up the idea like, man, I should just go to each state for about a week and meet up with cool random people and try to just document it. And yeah.
So how does that work for like your supporters? Like, are you traveling like with a film person, or you have somebody that's editing for you, or how's that work out?
No, I'm traveling solo. I've had one friend come and meet me that actually stayed in the RV, but a lot of the places that I choose to go are places where I either have friends already or people have been reaching out to me. Right now I'm in North Dakota at a guy named Colin's house. He owns 701 bikes in Bismarck. And yeah, him and his buddy Jesse reached out to me through Instagram after seeing one of my videos on YouTube, and just, yeah, invited me over to like check out their trails. We just actually got off the river. We went fishing and caught a handful of fish, and yeah, straight into this. So yeah, it's been sweet. But yeah, I guess back to your question is, yeah, it's just been me though. So it's been wild, like so wild, like filming, riding, driving, editing, and it's nonstop. And I'm only on state 15, and I'm having like such a blast. I'm like, yeah, like last week I was only supposed to be in Montana for a week, but I stayed for 2.
Yeah.
It's just so good. And yeah, just everyone, I feel like everyone I've met up with on the road is so rad. And
so you've been doing YouTube as well, and I know the answer to the question, but I want to ask it for the people. What's the reason that you're doing YouTube? I mean, you're trying to like monetize that, or?
Not at all. No, I just actually like when I started competing, like I was saying, like with Adidas, they've always been all about me doing like film projects and like kind of adventure stuff. And I just saw it as a way, like for this project, it's such a long one for a year. I think it would be insane. I think I would go insane, and whoever would have to live with me in an RV for a year would go insane to be filming it. Plus, it's like, I think trying to get a budget to do that would be really hard as well. So I was just like, well, how can I make this work? Like, I love filming. I love learning new things. And like the whole editing side is like something new for me. So yeah, I just kind of like took it on myself to be like, well, I really want to travel the States. It's got to make sense. I can't just go travel and not do anything. You know what I mean? As far as giving back to what my sponsors are giving me. So my idea was to create videos and, yeah, hopefully get people stoked.
What are you filming with? I know I've seen a bunch of drone shots, and like what kind of drone are you using? What kind of cameras are you using?
Yeah, I had a Phantom 4, and then I switched recently to the Mavic Air just so I can carry it better.
Yeah, I got one of those too.
Yeah, I see it right behind you. Yeah, that thing's sweet. Like,
yeah, apparently you're not supposed to land it in the dark when you're drunk because that'll break propellers.
Dude, I actually crashed mine in a tree last week, and it dropped like from 15 feet in the air, but she's good.
Yeah, so was mine. Mine was like, oh, I'm gonna get used to this life.
Surprised, like the Phantom 4 that I had before, like I crashed that thing like must have been a dozen times, and yeah, it broke some blades, but they're pretty sturdy.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm gonna try not to put it to the test, but more than likely, knowing me and my big monkey ways, it's gonna happen. So, what other cameras are you using?
Yeah, so I just recently I started out with the Sony A6000, which was awesome. Like usually using that for all like the mic stuff, like so it's like good audio. And then I just upgraded to like an A6500 so I can shoot some slow-mo. Kind of like when I want to take the time to get some side shots from, the trail. And then I have a GoPro Hero 5 with a gimbal, and then I just got another gimbal with the Hero 6.
Uh-huh.
And basically my setup now, that way I can run one gimbal in the front and one gimbal in the back when I'm riding with multiple people. So I don't have to because I like to do my edits where I splice between like forward and back shots and add some
you do a lot of like really quick clips, and I like the way that you do that. It's not so it's not like the typical POV kind of style. You're not doing a lot of talking like what I do, but
yeah.
I think it's really fun. And your Instagram clips are fucking on point, dude. Like if it doesn't draw you in, I don't know what kind of person you are, because like they're definitely like super cool. And like you'll have like a little bit of the party, a little bit of the fun, a little bit of the riding. Like 1 minute you're on a boat and you guys are like doing a flip off the wake tower, and next thing you're like, doing a Superman over some jump. It's like, that's pretty sick, dude.
Thanks, man. Yeah, and I think I think it's just I don't know, like it's definitely like what I'm stoked on doing, and I'm not really like, I guess this is like what I'm trying to say is like I want to do what I'm like really stoked on, and not try to do something that, you know what I mean, what I should do per se, or what's gonna get more people to be like stoked on what I'm doing. I'm like, this is what I want to do. This is the way I want to do it. And if people are stoked, sick. Like,
I think that's the best way, dude. I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, I think that's the only reason that my channel has had the small success that it's had, is just go out, be who the fuck you are, and people real, like, they can see that, like they can see when somebody's like doing something and they're driven by maybe marketing or the dollar or whatever. But when they see somebody has passion and that they're like, real to who they are, I think at the end of the day, that's going to get you way farther no matter what.
Totally.
So out of the states that you've been in so far, you say you've been through 15 this so far on this trip?
North Dakota's, the number 15.
What's standing out to you so far that out of what you've done?
I mean, obviously, like Utah's always great, but I had been there and been to the spots that I went to, so it's kind of like it's hard. But as far as new states that I went to, is like Jackson, Wyoming. Like Wyoming was a really cool state, just like checking out Yellowstone, and then the riding at the Teton Pass. Like that was definitely a place I didn't want to leave. And then Montana really surprised me. Like all the sick bike parks. And I think a lot of this too is like, I don't have an endless time in each state. So I've got to like go in and figure out like the best stuff that I want to ride, and that makes sense, because I'm not going to go to the top of the state and then go to the bottom and then back over here. But yeah, so Montana was really, really cool. And I think a lot of it too is like the connections that you make, the people that you meet along the way. Like the riding could be insane, but if you don't have anyone that's cool to show you around or ride it with, it might not be as of a good time, So
yeah, definitely. How did you come up with your route? Did you like plan that out ahead of time, or you just like rolling dice every time?
I figured my route out 1 week before I left. Although I knew I was going to do this trip for 6 months, I was like stressing on it, and then I was like, perfect. Like I knew I had to be. So I've had these like kind of like small like obligations of like I had to be up at like I got to be up at Silver Star Bike Resort for Radfest, and I had to go to Crankworks and then down to Norco's product launch. So I knew that was in August, so I kind of had to figure out a route to go like through the States and then cut back up into Canada, and then now I've dropped back into Montana and starting to make my way towards the East Coast. But it's actually worked out super well, I guess.
So you were saying earlier that is slope style still what you're considering like is like your bread and butter?
I have no idea, man.
Maybe well, put it this way then.
Maybe I think my buddies laugh like I'm a lifestyle athlete.
Yeah.
No, I mean I ride everything, like literally from downhill to enduro to cross. Like yesterday I rode some cross country. Tomorrow I'm going to go ride a skate park. Like I still love to do slope style and tricks and progress myself, love to throw like big tricks, but I'm definitely not like opposed to going out for like a pedal on a cross country ride or anything.
So I think the main reason I was asking that is because I don't really know what slope style is. What is slope style?
the slope style is like basically you're on like slope style contests. Basically, is like you're on a big course. There's a bunch of jumps and drops, and there's probably about roughly like 20 to 30 riders you're competing against, and you're get about 2 runs down the hill, and you just got to do your best tricks, like whether it's like a backflip, tail whip, and you have to have the cleanest run down the hill, and that's like how it's judged.
So it's basically like those big monster dirt jumps that you just see.
Yeah, big massive jumps where you're just throwing down like crazy tricks.
How do you buy jeans for how big your fucking balls are, dude?
I don't know, man. A lot of the slopestyle riders these days are wearing their sister's jeans, it looks like.
So apparently that doesn't matter then, right?
I guess not. I hope that fad's almost gone, though.
God, I hope so too, because fucking a fat guy in skinny jeans does not look good. So
Dude, we're gonna see biker in skinny jeans pretty soon.
Oh God, that would be a fucking nightmare. I honestly don't even want to think about it.
That's awesome.
So at this point, you said that you're starting to head towards the East Coast. Like, what do you have your eyes on anything, or
yeah,
you have like you said some commitments? So
one of my buddies is flying in to meet me. He's the marketing guy at FSA. He's just a super rad dude. Was a BMXer and then has ridden a lot of mountain bikes, and he grew up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. So he's going to meet me out there. And when I'm arriving, I keep hearing everyone's like, "Oh man, like the fall colors." And actually, like here in North Dakota, the colors are they're changing. So I think when I get to Michigan in a couple of weeks, like I hear like the Upper Peninsula is just insane and the trails are good. So I'm super excited for that. And then I'm kind of scared for the East Coast because winter's coming, and I gotta kind of pin it.
Yeah, you got to get up into you probably need to like shoot up to like the New England states and kind of get that dialed in and then work your way south, I would imagine.
Yeah, my goal is to get it all done before the first snow that sticks, I say.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, and some of that stuff back east, I know, like I grew up in Pennsylvania, and I mean, a lot of those places, like it snows, but maybe the snow lasts a couple of days and then it's gone. But riding in like frozen conditions, not the greatest either, though.
Yeah, my bones hurt when it's that cold. Too many crashes.
What are you talking about, dude? You're Andrew Taylor, dude. You don't crash.
Yeah. Obviously, I don't put the crashes in there. No, I do.
So where was that, on your Instagram, which by the way is Andrew Taylor MTB, right?
Yeah.
So on your Instagram, you had this like drone shot. It was shot from above, and it was a whole map of the United States, and you were doing like BMX tricks or something like that on it. Where was that at?
That was in Omaha, Nebraska. I was so stoked when I saw this. Like we were at the state building in downtown Omaha, and we were kind of just doing some like urban free ride, like messing around. And all of a sudden I saw this like huge like area in the center with a map of all of the counties of Nebraska. And
that's what it was. It wasn't the U.S. It was just Nebraska.
It was just Nebraska, but it was all the counties. So we set the drone up looking down, and I just like did a fakey 180, and I don't know how I did it. Like I'm surprised because I'm not that good at those things, but I just was able to like 180, like ride backwards through the whole entire state, and then I hopped out like right as it like whatever. And
yeah, no, and that's the shit that I was talking about earlier when I was talking about your editing style. Like, if I didn't know any better and I stumbled upon Andrew Taylor MTB Instagram, I'd be like, oh, this dude's fucking traveling around. He's got a film crew and an editor working with him. Because that was like perfect. Like it looked awesome.
I've always I've wondered, because I guess I don't express it too much, that I am the one doing all the filming and editing. Yeah, I wonder, like you said, like you're like, this guy might have a film crew with him, but yeah, it's a lot of work, but it's so much fun. Like it feels so good every Friday morning when I upload a video, when I'm like racing to get it done.
So you ride for Norco. Which one of their bikes do you ride the most?
I would say it's a mix. Like I'm like lately I've been on the RM a ton because I've been in states with like mountain bike parks, and then I've been actually really liking the site 29er. I never thought I'd be a 29er guy, but yeah, that thing's so fun and fast on trails. And then yeah, just their hardtail, the Rampage. I ride that quite a bit. I guess it really just depends like where I'm at and what style of riding I'm doing.
So you're still carrying around a bunch of bikes. You have a couple of bikes. I think you have a motocross bike too that you carry around with you, right?
Yeah, I got the moto on the front, and then right now I have like 6 bikes on the back of my RV. It looks ridiculous.
And then I noticed on your Instagram, as well as what you just said earlier, so I think you must enjoy fishing because I've seen a bunch of pictures of you fishing on Instagram and stuff. How'd you get into that?
I would say that's like what I like. I don't know, like when I'm not riding bikes, like I like definitely love fishing. When I moved down to Santa Cruz, I moved in with Greg Watts, who's like another professional mountain biker, like first guy to ever do a double flip, one crankwork slope styles, and all the 9 yards. But him and I were like, we need to get a hobby. I mean, I grew up fishing, but we're like, we need to get a hobby that we can do and not get hurt for when it's our off season. So we ended up buying a fishing boat, and we did a lot of like ocean fishing when I lived down in Santa Cruz. So it's just been something, I don't know. I like it's chill. You go out, drink some beers, and maybe catch some fish. But
what's the fish that you like, the fish story that you have, like the one that you caught that just blew your mind, or was it good?
Man, I was down in Mexico like a handful of years ago. It was like New Year's. My ex-girlfriend, like her birthday was like the 31st of December. Mine was January 1st. So we went out the night before, partied pretty hard.
Your birthday's fucking New Year's Day?
Yeah.
Guaranteed hangover every year.
Every year, dude. Like, but yeah, we were down there celebrating. I think we went to bed at 4. We had to be on the boat by 5. Got on, hooked like the first marlin of the year, and that thing was like 8 feet long. Like
the marlin, they have like that big fin on the back, don't they?
And the big pokey beak, yeah.
It kind of looks like a swordfish, but like with a fucking huge fin on the back of it.
Exactly, yeah, it was insane. So that was,
how big is that thing?
What's that?
How big was it?
I think it was like 8 feet. I can't even remember the exact weight, but it was huge, yeah. So that's my best fish story, I guess.
There you go. So you said it was 8 feet, so it was really like 3.5. It was a baby.
No, dude, if we put the Canadian tax, it was probably like 10.
Right on, man.
You know about the Canadian tax, right? It's like always back in the day, we'd be like, how big's that drop? Like, and the kids would be like, oh yeah, it's 10 feet. Like we call it Canadian tax. You just add a couple more feet, try to make it sound bigger and badder.
Sounds good to me, dude. One of the things that you said over and over again when we hung out the last time that stuck, that I catch myself saying from every now and then is like, well, somebody's offering you a beer and you're like, well, I had to drink it. I didn't want to be rude.
It'd be rude not to. Love that.
So as it is right now, you're getting ready to head to the East Coast. Are there any other like big events that you got to hit along the way, or that are part of kind of like your work stuff?
No, that was like pretty much the last. Actually, that's a lie. I fly to California in 5 days. Mm-hmm. I'm actually flying back to go to Interbike. Yeah, got a couple of meetings there and whatnot, just like figuring out some stuff.
Oh, we should hook up, dude. I'm gonna be up there with Richard.
Oh, sick! Hell yeah! I'm actually like, what day is it? I don't even. My brain's fried. I'm flying in like Friday. I'll be up there till Monday. I'm not actually going.
We were gonna show up on Sunday and probably leave on like Tuesday. So we're gonna have to cross paths.
Yeah,
that'll be a good time. It won't be the last time I'm hungover hanging out with Andrew Taylor.
Make it sound like I like to party or something.
No, it's just me. I actually have a problem. But the first step on the road to recovery is admitting you have a problem. So once I've admitted it, now I'm on the road to recovery. I can just stay on that road for a long fucking time. I got good gas mileage. So I'm drinking this Track 7 blood transfusion IPA today. Kind of tasty. I actually
They from your area.
Yeah, it's local here to Sacramento, and it has that blood orange. It seems like a lot of breweries are doing that. When I first picked it up, I didn't think I was going to like it because I don't usually go for the kind of fruity IPAs, but this one's actually like pretty good little blend.
Yeah, I dig that stuff. Like I see the Deschutes on your wall, the fresh squeeze, and the
Yeah. There's some good stuff back there. I remember half of them.
You drank them all too fast.
Yeah, it's possible. I actually don't drink. I just carry a bunch of empty cans around, fill them up with water, and just make people think that that's what I do. So let's see here. I'm struggling for just a second, thinking of something. What was it like when you did Rampage? Was Rampage out before that, or were you like in the first years that they started that?
Actually, I was like, no, because the first years they did it, like I can't even remember how many years they did it consecutively, and then they stopped for a while, and then I was like in the era of when like they brought it back.
So when you went down there for that event, like had you ridden that kind of stuff before?
Yeah. So actually, the way I got an invite is I was down. I was that year. I think I was telling you about that. I did my best year that I did the slopestyle events and whatnot. Then I got invited to go on this drop-in show where we traveled in a school bus for 3 months. And one of our stops was like Virgin, Utah, like where with the old Rampage site. And back then, like a lot of people, I guess, weren't doing like backflips off drops yet. And I don't know, I was like really young and dumb and just thought it would be sick to flip off one of these drops that was in the beginning Rampage days. So I like built a lip off of it. I think I was in a half shell helmet with no pads on and just and landed it. And after that, I remember like getting like an email from like the Rampage people, like, hey, we saw this, like, you want to ride this year? We're bringing it back. And that's kind of how I got invited into doing that sort of thing.
So basically, all you have to do is like completely risk your life, and then you can get into Rampage.
If they think your screw is that loose in your head, then yeah.
They're like, here's my guy. So what was it like to like compete in an event like that where you're just like, I mean, that's like highly produced kind of event as far as like there's a lot of coverage compared to, I mean, I guess Crankworks is getting big like that too. And like what is like, are you nervous on something like that? Or are you just like, hey, here's another day on the fucking bike?
I mean, like now that I'm not competing anymore, like looking back, obviously, like it's so easy to say, yeah, like every event I ever did, like, and I think any slopestyle or big mountain free rider doing contests would be lying if they said they weren't scared before, because yeah, that stuff's gnarly. It's like going out to battle. Like it's like we're all right, today's fucking, we're going to war, you know, like with the mountain. And basically, I think like when I was doing Rampage, like my mindset was like I wanted to do cool stuff and build a cool line, but I also wanted to like walk away. Like, you know, it was always at the end of the season when I did it, and like I don't know. I was stoked to be there and stoked to like be a part of that, but at the same time, it's like I didn't want to risk like sending a flip off an 80-foot drop or something like.
Yeah. How have you had a bad wreck in your career yet?
I've had a handful of bad wrecks, but like knock on wood, I
do that too. I don't want to be the guy that fucking jinxes you.
Right? Yeah, I haven't broken any bones, but I had to get my shoulder rebuilt, which because of like I think I dislocated it like 20 times or so. But
just 20 times. I mean, not like Travis Pastrana times, but 20 is good.
You know, like it buffed out. I got a new one, and it has been solid.
Love it. How long did that put you out?
I remember that was a big decision. I was always like, man, if I get this surgery, I'm gonna have to take a half a year off. Like, what are my sponsors are gonna think about that? But I ended up getting to the point where I just had to do it. So it took, I'd say I did it right after the last contest of the year. I think it took me 7 months to fully recover. So it was almost full season off my bike.
How did you deal with the emotional side of that? Because I know, like, for me, like, I'm obviously not a fucking pro rider, but if I don't have that, what I call, you know, the single track therapy, I get moody and I get depressed, and like, because it's a big part of like who you are. Like, did you go through that while you were in that recovery stage?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I was like, the thing was, is I was like, it was about 2 months until I could get on a road bike. Like, I could go road bike, but it was like a solid 6 months until I could actually go like chuck a Superman off a jump, you know, and feel comfortable about it. But
that's awesome, because I had like an AC separation on my shoulder, and it was 6 months until I got on my mountain bike again. I'm glad that it was that short of a time until you're chucking a fucking Superman. Thanks a lot for making me feel like I have a vagina. Andrew's like, how do I follow up to Robert having a vagina? I don't know. Picture me in skinny jeans.
No, I was like, I already thought you had one.
Oh, right? Well, you know, you did ride with me before. Never mind.
No, man, that weekend we met was awesome. That was a good time.
That was a good time. I think Norco has another one coming up here soon. So maybe are you coming out this year?
I wish. Yeah, I made it to the last year's one, but this will be just kind of with this thing. I've had so many things I've just had to pass up on, you know?
Yeah, yeah. No, it's understandable, man.
Like,
I mean,
sister getting married, like I couldn't make it because I was on a. No, that's a lie. I would. But yeah, I'll definitely be at next year's.
right on, man. So what are your a lot of my subscribers are here in the Bay Area, or when I say here, I mean us NorCal peeps. What were your like go-to spots that you liked riding around the NorCal?
I would say, like, growing up in Santa Rosa, I remember like there's an area called Carlmont that's like kind of like, I want to say it's south of San Francisco by like 30 minutes. But I remember going down there and riding quite a bit before I like figured out the whole Santa Cruz scene. But yeah, there, and then obviously summertime going up to Tahoe, North Star, and all those like trails and whatnot around there.
So in Santa Rosa, you grew up like doing like Annandale and like Tamarack and stuff like that?
Luckily, I grew up like right across the street from Annandale. So that was actually how I kind of really got into mountain biking, and they had some races going on up there that I joined in on when I was younger. And
you want to explain the Tamaranchu, or I'm sorry, the trail system there in Annandale?
Yeah, it's amazing. Like, it's just, you know, nothing like, there's not like super crazy huge descents, but you can go out and you can put a full day of riding in out there and see tons of different trails. There's lakes to swim in.
I think it's a good pay to play place. You know, they have, you know, like what I call like pay to play. Like, you'll put in a 3 or 4 mile climb and you'll get a 3 or 4 mile descent, you know, and it's got a good, like a real rocky terrain.
Dude,
kind of like a lot of baby heads on the trail and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I think one of the trails called the Refco. Like,
yeah. And then I think the big popular ones are like North and South Burma and stuff like that. That actually reminds me, you know, Annandale got kind of fucked up in those fires. Was your family and like impacted by that, or any of your friends or anything like that? A couple years ago, for those of you that don't know, Santa Rosa and Napa had some really big fires that kind of devastated the city.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I remember actually that was the day I bought my RV in Sacramento. I drove back to Santa Rosa that night. I was parked out in front of my parents' house, and I woke up. I had a road trip to Oregon the next day, and I woke up really early in the morning, as I was supposed to get on the road. And dude, there was like chaos in the town. I'm like looking around like, what the hell is going on? And yeah, sure enough, there's just the whole hillside of the town's on fire, just craziness. And I like, luckily my parents' house was on the opposite end of town that burnt down, but a lot of kids that I grew up with at their houses, their family, their parents, they lost their homes and stuff. So that's pretty wild, like going back and seeing it all. And
yeah, I saw some drone footage of Santa Rosa after everything happened. I mean, it looked like freaking like Nagasaki or something. I mean, the whole city was like just burned to the ground. It's kind of crazy.
You hear about fires, but you don't imagine them just ripping through a town. You know what I mean? It's like,
well, the thing that was weird was like you would see like one side of the street is like burned to the ground, then like across the street is like, it still looks like the freaking, like, I don't know, like the perfect little city of Pleasantville or something like that,
but across the streets.
Yeah, like right on the other side of the street. Like, I don't even understand. Like, it's hard for me to.
Well, I remember waking up that night, like just like the wind was just howling, like. So I imagine it was just going in every which direction, just pushing it back and forth. Pretty wild.
Yeah, that's definitely crazy.
It's actually been really cool to see that community come together. Like I haven't been there much, like since I've been back a handful of times to visit family, but it's really cool going back and like hearing stories and seeing like all the communities like come together and really like helped people out, and like they're rebuilding stuff super fast. And I don't know. Sometimes stuff like that's super devastating, but then I think it like grounds people to a point where, I don't know, you realize there's like way bigger or way less.
Yeah, no, I think that's one of those things that definitely, it sadly enough, it takes a fucking catastrophe to actually make you feel like you like kind of like set yourself like a little straight, and realize, holy shit, like, I don't know what the fuck why am I being pissed off about my latte taking 10 minutes,
Exactly. Yeah.
So you had done a few events as well in the background and in your past as well, like that you were doing your own event planning and stuff like that. I've been trying to build this event in Downeyville, the biker event, and the last couple of years it's been getting bigger and bigger, and I'd love to like be able to grow it to be something like how Sedona has. And what kind of advice would you give somebody like me to be trying to do that?
I did started out doing just a bike event in the Bay Area, just because I feel like even for slopestyle, even in the US, there's just not that many events. And at that time when I started, there was one guy, Darren Bearcloth in Canada, was doing his own event. And I think Paul Basagodia was doing his own event in like the Reno area. But so, yeah, I just wanted to do my own event. It was super fun. Another thing, it's like a lot of work, but it's really rewarding when it goes down, because you see people are psyched and just giving. I don't know. I feel like it was like giving back, like trying to like, make another contest for kids that wanted to come and try to like, prove themselves and whatnot. But I would definitely say the event world it's a lot of work and can be really fun, but it can also just rain on your parade.
Was that something that you did? Like you set that up with the city, or like you just kind of like call it out? How did you go about it?
Yeah, the first one was at the Cow Palace in San Francisco, and I just teamed up with a buddy of mine, Phil from Ride SFO. He was already doing his bike swap expo. So we just came up with the idea, like it'd be cool to have like kind of a main event, like dirt jump event at the show. So we ended up teaming up and doing that for a few years. And then I think it's two years ago now that I stopped doing the event for a little while. It was like, it's really hard to get funding for stuff like that. I mean, like, just to be straightforward and honest, like to get the amount of money you need to do it the right way is really hard. So I stopped doing it for a couple of years, and then I decided that I wanted to do it again, but I wanted to do it in my hometown. And it was actually really cool because I ended up building a pump track for the city, and I made a lot of connections with the city during that build, and then realized that I could get some like kind of like tourism money towards an event. So they helped me out a bit. So a couple years.
How did you approach the city on something like that? You're just like, hey, I'm this 20-year-old guy that likes riding bikes, and like I don't know how, like what means do you go about doing that?
Totally. Well, there's like the department that deals with all the tourism stuff, and it basically like went to them and saying, hey, like I'm going to do this event. This is how many people I expect to have at my event. This is how many people like we expect to stay for the weekend. And like if you can kind of prove to the cities like you're going to bring in tourism, tourists pay into like a hotel tax. Like when you go get a hotel room, like you're paying money for your hotel room, but there's also an additional tax, tourism tax, that goes into a fund that the city can decide what they want to use it for. So that's how I was able to be like, okay, like I'm proving like we're gonna fill this, they call it beds, heads in beds or something. Like how like if you can prove that you're gonna like fill this like amount of hotel rooms, there you're generating the city some money. So in return, they are willing to help you, and that was basically really cool. And getting them behind it, just knowing the city was there. They did a lot of like cool random stuff that they didn't have to. So yeah, props to Santa Rosa for like being on board with bike stuff and helping out. But yeah, and then obviously all my other sponsors helped out, and I kind of took a gamble at the point though that I wanted to do it.
How big was the event? I mean, was there like 1,000 people there? Was there fucking?
Well, yes, so that was a thing. Like the Chris Beck Arena where we did it holds 2,000 people, and we were expecting to sell out the stadium, but it rained all day on the day of the event, like nonstop. We had to cancel it, so we were able to actually like get it like moved to the very next day to Sunday. But at that point, it was kind of like really rough. So I think we had around 800 people still showed up to the event.
Oh, that's cool though.
Yeah, it was really awesome to see people still come up, but it was just really hard knowing like how much work and how like it took me like 6 months of planning and preparation, like dealing with the city, the fire department, like all the rental, like tractors, everything, and to see all the effort that went into it for like a 1-day thing that got rained out, it was just like took the wind out of my sails.
Yeah, no, I can totally understand. I mean, my event is very small compared to that, you know, but I think, you know, last year we probably had 60 or so people at the campground, and who knows how many people that were riding that day. Probably another, you know, I would assume at least another maybe 100 people that were riding just because of us being up there. And it takes a lot of effort, you know, even just like reaching out to different sponsors and vendors and like, hey, you know, we want to give away some swag, and explaining about, you know, what that's going to do for people and how that's going to, you know, like help their brand. And, you know, at the other end of it, you're giving this stuff away, you know, and people are just like, oh yeah, free goose, sweet. You know, and you're like, no, dude, like that actually took a lot of my time.
Yeah, to line up. Exactly. Yeah. But it's cool when there's people like you, like trying to make stuff like that happen. It's like, you know,
that's the thing, you know, I've said this on some of my other videos, and definitely to other people that have met me, you know, like this basically Downeyville started because like I was always just going up there for my birthday weekend. We would always, my buddies, we'd go up and we'd fucking camp and have a good time. And once I started the channel, I was like, I guess I have more friends now, you know, and so the first year I did it, you know, and it was, you know, maybe 15 people there, and probably half of them were my friends. And then, like I said, last year we were probably up around 60 or so, and I expected to keep growing. But last year, like standing there in the campground and like seeing all these fucking people that came and were having a good time, like it was seriously like, it was like a little emotional for me. I was like, wow, this is fucking crazy seeing this come together, man.
That's so awesome. Yeah, like see all your effort come
together. Yeah, totally. So how do you get that like feeling from what you're doing right now, like traveling around the US?
Yeah, I mean, like literally, I'm not gonna lie, when it's been a shit ton of work, but it's work that I love, so I really like doing it. And the way that gets me stoked is when I run into people like last week in Montana, I ran into 2 different people at the resort that said like they're watching the videos I'm making and they're super stoked. And like literally, like when people watch the videos and they are like, hey man, like that's awesome, keep going, like I'm stoked to watch your adventure unfold. And like that's why I'm like all right, like what I'm doing is like, you know, like people are getting stoked on it, and I just want to get people stoked to like get out and adventure and ride bikes and just kind of like, I don't know, have a good time.
So your YouTube channel is just search Andrew Taylor, right?
Yeah.
I don't think you have like a unique URL for it at this point. You just hit the 1,000 mark, so you should be able to do that. So
I think it actually, I think it's like youtube.com, and then like my name, Andrew Taylor.
Just Andrew Taylor. Fucking A. Who's that dude? So what is when I talked to Jeff Lanowski, he was like, man, I had been like this pro rider, been in the like industry for like 20 years. I started this YouTube channel. I thought I was just gonna blow the fuck up. And he's like, holy shit, it takes a lot of effort to actually do. Like, what has it that surprised you about YouTube compared to like maybe what you thought about it before you started trying to have a channel?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Like I've been doing like film trips since I can remember, like the last like 10, 15 years, and making all these videos. But all the videos, they would always go on to like, say, my sponsors' video players, you know what I mean? Rather than having my own channel where I was putting everything. So part of me is like, man, I wish I would have started sooner. But now that I'm just starting like later in my career to do this whole like YouTube thing. It's been kind of fun, just like a learning process, like of how everything works. And like, you know what I mean? I still actually like don't even know much about it. I know that I put videos online and hopefully people like have a good time watching them. But yeah, it is interesting, I guess, like putting that much time and effort, and then you're like, well, like, sweet, that video got 10 views. Sweet.
So what do you
film and edit?
Yeah, I mean, it's a ridiculous amount of time. You know, it definitely gives you respect for the guys that have the huge channels. You're just impressed by, you know, how they got there. I think it goes for anything in life. I mean, you have to put the work in. None of it is easy, you know, and it's really easy to look at the other guy and be like, oh, well, he was here earlier. It was easier then, you know, and it's like, no, it's not. Like the only way you become successful at anything is fucking busting your ass.
Totally. You know? And especially I think it's awesome. Like when I say it's a lot of work, like it's something that I'm so passionate and I love doing. Like I get so psyched when I get these like insane shots. Like I'm like, I can't wait to edit this stuff. And yeah, it's like literally like I feel like I'm doing stuff 7 days a week, and then it's right into the next 7 days a week for the next state. You know what I mean? But I love it. So it's not like, yeah.
So how do you deal with not like for me, it's really hard to like, once I start getting like too much footage to edit, it gets like I get anxiety about it. Like when you're writing like all the time, like you are, like, how are you not like just buried in footage?
So I was in Montana and I had 160 gigs of footage to go through. Like 160. It took me 3 days to edit that video. Like it was insane. But I'm learning at the same time, like it's not about an abundance of footage. It's about the right shots.
Yeah.
And it becomes more fun when you're just thinking a bit more and just getting the right shots. Cause then you can actually enjoy the ride as much, you know, as when you're not filming. Like, I mean, I can go out and ride a lot and then get the key shots. Cause you know, this trip's also about just me enjoying it, meeting people and riding. And sometimes I almost feel bad when I'm like, hey guys, can we stop and get a shot? But at the same time, a lot of people, they know what I'm doing and they're super pumped to be a part of it and help film.
I think that's the thing is like when I first started my channel, I found out like who didn't want to be part of that adventure. And at the end of the day, for me, it was like, you know what, look, this is what I'm doing and you guys are my friends, and either you guys are going to be part of that and you're going to be like my friends because of that, or not because of that, but like you're going to accept that as like part of the deal, you know, or then you're not the right guy I want to ride with. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And that's, yeah, I'm always trying to be like super upfront with people. I'm like, hey, like I'm so pumped to like meet up and ride, but at the same time, I love to film and document it all. So like if you're on board, then, and most people are, but I've definitely had some people like, you know, you can tell they're like, all right, like,
yeah, they don't want to wait for you to change the battery. They don't want to like, hey, let's not walk up that hill and do this 3 more times, or, you know, it's like, but to me, like that's part of the fun. That's part of the adventure. That's what makes it exciting.
Time to like mellow out and hang out and talk when you're on the trails. You know what I mean?
You know, it definitely makes you pay attention to what's around you more. One thing that I noticed, you know, before I filmed, there was a lot of times that I never stopped, and having to change a battery on the side of the trail is like, you take that moment to look around and you're like, oh shit, it's fucking beautiful here. Like, this is actually pretty badass that I actually have the opportunity to be sitting here right now.
Totally. And then you have the footage to look back, and if you ever want to,
yeah, that was one of the things when I started my channel. I always said, like, if it went nowhere, the worst case scenario is I documented my life,
Exactly.
So, so you're thinking you're going up into the probably towards New England. Is there anything like in particular that's got your headset on?
I don't know. I've heard Vermont's pretty cool. Like, I've been to New Hampshire for like the Highland Bike Park. I've been there quite a few.
Oh yeah, I've heard Highland a bunch. There's some other YouTubers that film up there a bunch. I think Gene from Regular Guy Mountain Biking goes up there a lot.
Yeah, totally. So that place will be fun, and I haven't been on the East Coast much, so I'm excited for it all. I have no idea what to expect. I kind of just been taking this whole thing week by week, like.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the thing that's really interesting is like, was it you? No, there was somebody else we had a conversation with on the trail once, and it was like these kind of stupid freaking things that people say that are like blatantly obvious, and one of them is like, every trail is different, and it's like it sounds so like cliche to say, but it's like every place is really different, and it's like such a different ride. It's so hard to compare one place to another because of like how, like what encompasses that difference. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally.
It's like, like, yeah, okay, you could go somewhere like Tahoe, for example, and you have these like beautiful views and these descents that are like maybe super long, but it's also like super sandy. So it's not like it's like when you're in Santa Cruz, for example, and you have these super short descents, but they're fucking sick as hell. It's like, just like, but maybe the dirt's really good, but now you got to like, these quick ass climbs again. Or like I recently was in Bend, and I've ridden in Oregon before, but in Portland, and over there, like the ground is like tacky and like always wet-ish. And when I was in
volcanic,
yeah, and Bend reminded me a lot of Tahoe. Like the way I was explaining it to people when I was there, it was like I feel like Tahoe and Sedona had a baby,
Yeah,
and that's not what I would have expected in being in the PNW,
So yeah, it's an interesting area, and it's actually pretty interesting to me. I was thinking about like a lot of like professional mountain bikers have moved to Bend over the last 5-10 years, and it's interesting because I'm not saying anything bad about the riding in Bend, but I definitely think there's places with a lot better riding.
Yeah, and sometimes it's better riding, but sometimes it's the community too. I mean, like,
exactly. And it is such a cool area. Like, it's beautiful. It's just interesting as far as like the riding aspect of like going up to Bachelor, like you're riding on like all this like just like volcanic rock. Like, I know it's like hard for them to like pack trails in and stuff, which is just like, every trail's different, right?
Right. I mean, it's really like how the city embraces that, and yeah. I think that's what Sedona did well. They had a bunch of illegal trail makers, and they turned it into like, it's probably a good part of their like tourism every year. Oh, and I think that's what Bend's doing. There's definitely a lot of mountain bike companies up there now. When I went up there, I was going up to meet up with Jake from Project 321, and it just like unfolded in front of me. Like there was like, oh, this company's there, this company's there, this company's there. And it all of a sudden turned into, wow, I don't have enough time to even visit everybody that I want to see, And
did you go by and check out, what's that gimbal company from there?
Yeah, I was there. I actually did stop and see Evo.
Oh, nice.
I stopped and I saw B1KER as well. They're there. And I visited with Night Composites. They do carbon wheels. And then also Project 321. They used to be out of Fresno, a hub company, but they moved up there, and good shit, man. And the riding was fun. Honestly, I ended up booking up so much time going to talk to companies that I only had like 1 day to ride. So it was fun to ride. And I really look forward to getting back up there and actually being able to experience a little bit more of the city.
Yeah, it's sweet. Like I feel like I think I must have been there maybe a few weeks before you, I think.
Oh, really? We just missed each other, huh?
Yeah, I must have just missed you, but yeah, it was kind of same deal. Like I only had a couple of days, and the riding's, I don't know, it's sweet. Like Bachelor was awesome, and then I just know I think like later summer, when probably we're both there, like later summer, and stuff starts getting a lot drier. But I'm sure
it's kind of blown out. I'm sure that place is like Tahoe if you hit it in the spring.
Yeah, like colder seasons are probably like super dialed in.
Yeah. No, I mean, but it was still like it was a good time. I definitely didn't.
Yeah, that river through town's awesome.
Yeah. Are you planning on going? Oh shit! I just forgot the name of the city. It's in Arkansas, where Walmart is.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Bentonville.
Yeah. And you planning on hitting that up?
100%. Yeah, I'm actually really excited to hit that up.
That's definitely a city that's taken freaking mountain biking and embraced the fuck out of it. You know?
Yeah.
It's funny, you know, you would think, you know, like when you hear the like Walmart, you don't necessarily think of them funding a mountain bike mecca, but apparently they are.
Yeah, it sounds like one of like, I don't know the actual story, but like someone that's part of that family, one of the sons or something, is like really into mountain biking, so has done a lot to like embrace it and turn that area into a mountain bike mecca.
So you're out here, you're making these videos, you're doing YouTube, you got your Instagram channel going on. What kind of things is it that you want to do outside of that and fishing? What else do you do for fun?
Basically just dirt bike, ride bikes. Fish.
How did you get into the dirt bike stuff?
Just like, I mean, I think I've had a dirt bike the last like 10 years or so. Just like love to go trail riding. I don't get too crazy on it. Actually, like a dirt bike's the way that I learned how to Superman though. Like just because it was super big and heavy, like it was stable in the air. So I don't know. I feel like you can actually like learn tricks on moto pretty easy because it's so stable. But
some guys that are, you know, real comfortable in the air like that, they come from moto. So you actually went the other way around, huh?
Just for like, I think actually just that trick in particular. But
no, but I mean, like you were a mountain biker and doing that kind of big stuff on bikes, and then up moto. A lot of times, guys go the other way. Like they start on moto and then get into mountain biking later.
Yeah, I think if I was finally at a point where I could like even just afford to get one, you know, it's not like they're not cheap, and but I love it. It's super fun. Like.
So you guys did a trip down to Mexico. What'd you do when you were in Mexico?
Yeah, I drove down with like Martin Soderstrom. We did a trip. It was 2 weeks roughly started in San Diego and drove all the way to Cabo San Lucas and just kind of just adventured, tried to pick out spots. It was pretty wild just trying to like go to places where there's no one around and you heard about a little bit of bike riding. And then, it was interesting, but super fun. It was like, maybe not the best riding trip I've ever been on as far as the actual bike riding, but just the adventure, you know, going into a different country that you're like, you're not really like, you don't know what's going on too much. You're like, it could be sketchy, but it could be good. But
do you speak Spanish?
No, like hola, senor.
You know how to get like uno cerveza, por favor?
Yeah, exactly. It's about it. But
how do you say, where is the donkey show? How do you say that?
Wait, what's a donkey show?
Right?
Really, Robert? Can you explain what a donkey? I
told my lady that was one of my life goals, like my bucket list things, was to see a donkey show, and she's like, "I don't know why I'm with you."
Well, if you ever go to Thailand, check out the ping pong show.
That was my other thing that I told her. I followed it up with the donkey show, and she was like, "Oh, that's ridiculous." And then I was like, she wanted to go to Thailand. I was like, "Sweet, I can see a ping pong ball show." And she's like, "I don't even want to ask what that is."
It's not even just ping pongs, man. I did bring my ex-girlfriend though, and it was pretty hilarious. I
You saw the ping pong ball show with your ex-girlfriend?
Yeah, I was with my stepbrother and buddy too, and yeah, we brought her in, and yeah, it was
Very, very interesting. I had a buddy that went to a sex show in Amsterdam when I used to live in Germany, and he ended up getting a dildo strapped on his head and pulled up on stage. That was interesting. So weird shit happens when you ask for it, right?
there's some real weird people in this world, but
I know, man. I just fucking like to keep walking on by. I don't want to see any of that shit. So you went also, you said you wanted to go to Alaska for a long time and you put that trip together. What was it that intrigued you about Alaska?
oh, just the final frontier, you know, just the place that seems so like far out there and just straight wilderness, outdoorsy. Like, I don't know. I just was always intrigued by Alaska. And
So was it like some particular like trails or anything that you knew of, or you're just like, I'm gonna go up there and freaking just ask locals, or what kind of research did you do for that?
yeah, like I got in touch with some locals and did some research and got like for one zone in Healy, we had a guide that has guided like people that go do film trips up there. And then it's crazy how like obviously Alaska's gigantic, but like actual like real like built trails, it's like few and far. So a lot of the stuff we did was actually like we did a heli drop out in the middle of nowhere where we just rode like unridden terrain, probably that like no one's ever touched, stuff like that. So that was like
You're basically like, here's a GPS. That's the city I need to get to, and I'm gonna get there whichever line looks good.
exactly.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
What kind of bike do you take for that?
I rode my like all mountain enduro bike, like a 160 travel, like with a dropper post. So something that I could like climb, but still something that I could like do a solid descent. So yeah, like my Norco range was definitely a like solid bike for there.
What's your, I don't know if you have a tire sponsor, so
Yeah,
let me know if you do or you don't. Do you have a tire sponsor?
yeah, Kenda.
So I would assume then, what's your favorite tire by them?
For that type of stuff, like the Nevigal.
That used to be my favorite tire, man, for a long time. The only reason I stopped riding it was because like the rolling resistance was hard to climb with, but descent wise, man, that thing like really really hooks up well.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's a good tire. It's really cool to see what Kenda's been doing. They've been developing like a lot of like new tires lately for their downhill teams, and they've definitely stepped up their game a lot. So it's funny, like they're just, before I was even riding for them, I was buying Kenda tires, you know, they always made this tire called the Small Block 8 that I loved for dirt jumping and slope style because it's like really lightweight and fast rolling. But
I tried that tire for me and it was fucking a shit show, but it makes sense for what you're using. Like for me though, like it rolled so fast that I was picking up speed like super quick, but whenever I would come into corners, I couldn't break with it, you know, like, cause obviously I got a fair amount of mass coming with me.
Hard pack, like dirt style drive. I mean, I even ride that at skate parks, like, you know what I mean? It's just a good all around, like for that type of stuff, but not for going out in like crazy, whatever, rocky terrain.
Yeah. I read some guys that were writing reviews that must've weighed like 140 and they led me astray. Or
you read my review? No.
Yeah, it was. That's weird. What do you think about the 29 or 27.5 plus or 27.5? You were talking earlier that you never thought you would be a 29er guy. Like, what was it that held you back from it?
I mean, I wouldn't say the only thing that would maybe like hold me back per se is like, I guess coming from the jumping background, I like to be more like agile on my bike. I like to throw it around. I like to do like, you know, tricks and whatnot. So having a bigger wheel doesn't really give me any advantage. But now that I'm riding a lot more trail bikes and everything, like jumping on a 29er, I'm able to just like smash stuff faster and pump stuff harder. And like literally, like I love riding that 29er. It's insane. Like you can pump stuff and push so hard. So yeah, it's been really cool.
I always, like I started BMX when I was younger, and I think, one of the reasons that I held on to my 26-inch wheel for so long was because I enjoyed that flickability. And I always felt like the 29er kind of, I feel like it picks its lines a little bit. Like you have to, like, it's like you negotiate with it. Like you're like, it's like, hey, this is the line I want to take. And you're like, okay, I'll do that with you, and whereas like the 27.5, like you still have that flickability of the 26-inch wheel, but you get to still choose your lines, and that's why, I mean, I haven't ridden a 29er that I'm like in love with yet, but oddly enough, I've ridden a couple of 27.5 plus, and I really like them. And it's similar almost in circumference, but for some reason, I don't know. I think it's because of the additional grip, and I'm a big guy. Like that makes up for the lack of maybe being able to steer as well. Do you feel like you lose some steering with the 29er?
It's just slower. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to, I think if I rode one for like a month straight, I wouldn't notice it anymore. But being a guy that's, riding a bike, like I even ride my frame size down a size than what I should, because I like that flickable, like kind of feeling.
It's same. Yeah.
You can kind of like pop it underneath you and move it around real easy. And whenever I get on the 29er, I don't have that, and it makes me feel uncomfortable. You
notice like when you do double tail whips, like riding a smaller frame, like it's a bit easier for you.
Yeah, totally. That's what I was thinking. Double tail whips with the like over easy eggs. I do those too. You're making me sweat just thinking about it, dude. Double tail whips. This fucking guy. So, I think, I know you had some time restraints. I don't want to keep you on too long.
Like I'm super actually pumped that you asked me to do this, and been psyched ever since I met you. Just just such a funny character. And
I'm not a fucking character, man.
Quite the character, bud. I'm actually, on my road trip right now. I'm in North Dakota, and I met some awesome people. They took me riding last night, took me fishing today, helped me work on some bikes. So we got back from fishing straight into this. So I didn't want to, sit on the computer for hours on end. But I actually am really stoked that you, invited me.
No. And I really appreciate that you took the time to come on here and hang out with me. Is there anybody on the chat that has anything they want to ask Andrew before we wrap it up? I'm going to throw that out there right now. There's another 30, 40 some people there sitting out. In the meantime, what has what was the most like thing that like you had the most anxiety about doing in your biking career? Like, was it some race or some event that you put together, or just something simple like the first time you did a backflip, or what was it?
That's a really good question, man.
It's probably riding up to Friel's Point after drinking all night long with BKER.
Exactly. No, yeah. I mean, obviously, riding Rampage, that was always like a huge, like so much anxiety, like so much like I just want to walk away from this weekend like alive. And a lot of contests. Like I actually got to the point where I would tell my buddies, like, I don't think I'm gonna ride tomorrow. Like I don't think I can do it. And then the day would come and I would just like all of a sudden be like, all right, here, I got to do it. Let's do it. Let's go. And then I would do it. And then I would land my run and I'd be like, that was so sick. Like, but I'd go from the point of being like, I don't think I want to ride. Like, I think I want to just back out. Like, and then always like doing it. But yeah, it's
anxiety. Yeah, no, I totally, that's the funny thing about mountain biking, like even for me, you like go do like after work ride and you get to the trail and you're like, fuck this, man. It's fucking hot. I've been at work all day. I'm fucking over this shit. Like, let's just fucking park here in the parking lot. We'll just drink the beer in the cooler and say we rode, and then you get out and you ride. And even if it's a shitty ride, even if it's a short ride, even if it's a grueler, like you get done and you're like, man,
that was sick. Yeah.
That's why I fucking do this. That's right. I remember now, you know?
When you're riding, do you ever get those moments where you just all of a sudden it like hits you and you just start, you look around a lot more than you normally are and you just start smiling like, dude, this stuff is legit. Like, you know what I mean? Just
Yeah,
like,
no, definitely. I think there's those places like I think Tahoe lends to that a lot for me because the views up there are just amazing. And you know, I grew up riding bike in Pennsylvania, and you know, the Appalachian Mountains, quote like air quote mountains, are they're like fucking foothills compared to what we have in California, you know. And so like for me, the first time that I'm riding a mountain bike on a trail, like for instance, when we did Friel, and it's like, here's the highest mountain bike trail that you can legally ride in Tahoe. It's like 10,000 fucking feet. Like, this is mountain biking. You know what I mean? Like this is mountain biking. And like, you're looking down and you're seeing, you know, 4,000 feet of elevation loss down to the lake. And you're like, this is fucking amazing. Like, I don't even care if I honestly had this while I was going up that hill. It's like, I don't care if I have to walk up this entire fucking hill. This is worth me being here right now. Like, this is just amazing. Like, I'm so lucky to have this, you know?
100%, man. I love those moments where you just can like sit back and reflect, even if it's like as you're pinning it down and just like look around and be like, man, life's pretty awesome, you know?
Yeah, it definitely, you know, the downhill part definitely makes the pain go away, you know? Like everything that you fucking put in sweat equity wise to get there, you're like, oh, yeah, this is worth it. This is totally worth it. Hey man, I really appreciate you taking the time. Anybody that's watching this on YouTube right now, definitely go check him out. His youtube.com/user A Taylor 5252. What's the 5252 mean?
That's the pin to my debit card. The pin number to my debit card. Yeah. So if you find me, take my wallet. That's how you get my cash.
And then your Instagram is Andrew Taylor MTB. So, dude, I really am stoked that you're out here. I want everybody else to know, if you're not aware at this point, the Biker Bar is every Sunday at 5 p.m. PST. And it's also on Apple Play or Apple, whatever the fuck, Apple iTunes podcast, what that shit's called, Google. It's on SoundCloud. However, next Sunday, I'm going to be at Interbike, hopefully drinking with this guy. And so there won't be a Biker Bar next week.
Let's make that a thing.
Unless for some reason there's some miraculous way that I can come up with doing one in the hotel or something like that. But I'm assuming at this point, no Biker Bar next week, but the week after we will be right back into the swing of things. Thanks again, Andrew Taylor, man. You're fucking awesome, dude. I can't wait till we get together and
yeah, as well. And I think I'm pretty sure you should probably come meet me on my journey through the States for a handful of days so we can get after, make some videos, drink some beers. So
yeah, dude, if you can talk to Adidas and tell them that you want to fund the fat guy to come hang out with you for a few fucking in, dude.
Dude.
Hey guys. Go ahead.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. Hey guys, I want you all to know it only takes a bike to be a biker. Get the fuck out and be one, bitches.